In 1936, Franklin Roosevelt stood before a crowd at Madison Square Garden and named a conflict that had long operated in the background. "They are unanimous in their hate for me," he said. It was not a rhetorical flourish. It was a public acknowledgment of an existing power struggle. Roosevelt was not accusing individuals. He was identifying organized economic interests that had shaped policy, markets, and institutions for decades. By naming that hostility openly, he forced a structural conflict into the political foreground. This is the story of what happens when reform collides with concentrated economic power: the incentives, the resistance, the escalation, and how the system came close to breaking before it was forced to adapt. What is rarely explained about the New Deal is not what it promised, but what it was designed to prevent. It was not conceived primarily as a social program. It functioned as a containment strategy. Roosevelt was not responding to poverty alone. He was responding to systemic instability that existing institutions could no longer absorb. By 1933, the economic collapse had already destroyed nearly 1/3 of American wealth in 4 years. The damage was done. The pressure was building. That pressure was not abstract. It showed up in numbers. 13 million Americans unemployed. 1 in 4 workers without income. No savings, no buffer. Banks were failing at a rate of nearly 100 per week. Farmers destroyed crops they could not afford to bring to market. In urban centers, hunger was visible and persistent in a country with unmatched productive capacity. The policy response before Roosevelt had followed established economic doctrine: minimal intervention, fiscal restraint, confidence that markets would correct themselves. By 1933, it was clear they would not. It got worse. Protesters marched in every major city. World War I veterans set up camps in Washington, demanding bonuses they had been promised years earlier. Hoover sent in the army. The camps were burned. Cavalry and tanks moved through the Capitol. People began talking about communism, not as theory, as organization. The American system was entering a phase it might not survive. Roosevelt wins in a landslide and takes office in March 1933. His first move is blunt. He closes every bank in America, every one of them. Roosevelt did not close the banks to stop the market. He closed them to stop the panic. Without time, no system could be stabilized, and time was the one thing the market could no longer produce. After federal inspection, they reopen. The system starts moving again. Then come the programs: emergency jobs, roads, dams, bridges. Wall Street is regulated. Commercial and investment banking are separated. Deposits are guaranteed. Wages are set. Unions are legalized. Social Security and unemployment insurance are created. Programs that did not exist become permanent structures. And they sharply reduce the freedom of those who had controlled the system before. The response is immediate. The wealthy are furious. To understand the reaction, you have to understand their position. The 1920s had produced the highest concentration of wealth in American history. The top fraction of households controlled 1/4 of all wealth. Industrial empires, financial dynasties, market power without meaningful limits. This order felt permanent. It was justified as natural. Survival of the fittest, hierarchy as proof of merit. Roosevelt was not adjusting that order. He was threatening its stability. Leading figures of American finance publicly labeled his policies socialism. Old industrial families accused him of betraying his own class. In one sense, they were right. Roosevelt came from their world. He understood its incentives, and he understood something else. That extreme concentration of power made the system brittle. That collapse would not stop at the bottom. That unchecked hierarchy eventually destabilizes the structure it depends on. By 1933 and 1934, Roosevelt is still operating within limits. His early programs create jobs, stabilize income, and reduce immediate pressure. He's not attacking wealth itself. He is trying to keep the system from tipping over, enough employment to contain unrest, enough security to prevent radicalization. From his perspective, these measures are stabilizing. From the perspective of concentrated wealth, they are an existential threat. Regulation is framed as tyranny, taxes as confiscation, social programs as socialism. Opposition organizes. In 1934, the American Liberty League forms, funded by some of the most powerful corporate and industrial interests in the country. Its public language is constitutional defense. Its practical purpose is obstruction. Money flows into pamphlets, candidates, and coordinated media campaigns. Social Security is labeled communism. Labor unions are called un-American. Roosevelt is framed as an authoritarian danger. Then the conflict moves beyond rhetoric. That same year, Marine Corps General Smedley Butler testifies before Congress. Wealthy backers had approached him with a plan to mobilize veterans, march on Washington, and remove the elected government. Butler records the conversations. He names names. Congress confirms that an organized plan existed. Nothing happens. No prosecutions. No sustained press coverage. The story fades quickly. Roosevelt draws a conclusion. When reform threatens entrenched power, democratic norms are conditional. At that point, accommodation ends. The conflict escalates. By 1935, the period of accommodation is over. Roosevelt shifts course. The Second New Deal. Taxes rise sharply at the top. A 79% rate on the highest incomes. Estate taxes aimed at limiting dynastic concentration. Labor protections are strengthened. Rural electrification expands. The Works Progress Administration employs millions. This is no longer stabilization at the margins. It is a structural rewrite. Not everyone sees it that way. As the rules change, power looks for the institutions it still controls. The Supreme Court begins striking down New Deal programs. Laws passed by Congress are invalidated. Programs millions depend on are blocked. The conflict moves from elections to institutions. In 1936, Roosevelt runs openly against concentrated economic power. At Madison Square Garden, he names organized money as a political force. He wins decisively. 46 states. One of the largest landslides in American history. The mandate is clear. Reform has public support. But the courts remain. In 1937, Roosevelt proposes expanding the Supreme Court, adding new justices to break institutional resistance. The proposal fails. Even allies recoil. It feels like a step too far. But the signal is received. The court changes course. New Deal legislation is upheld. Legal scholars later call it the switch in time that saved 9. Not because the Constitution changed, but because the political cost of continued obstruction did. What follows is not total victory. Wealth remains private. Markets remain intact. But they are regulated, taxed, checked. The federal government now holds tools it did not have before. Tools to intervene, to stabilize, to limit extremes. The system bends. It doesn't break. What emerged was not a new ideology. It was a new balance. Limits where unlimited concentration had made the system unstable. Private ownership remained. Markets remained. But regulation became unavoidable. Not as punishment, as the price of keeping the structure intact. By the early 1930s, that structure was under visible strain. Unemployment, bank failures, mass mobilization. Not abstract risk, a system approaching its tolerance limit. Roosevelt moved before consensus, not to impose ideology, but because delay had become the greater danger. The Supreme Court confrontation exposed the constraint. When elections failed to halt reform, resistance shifted to insulated institutions. The court-packing plan failed. But the balance changed, not because principles shifted, because the cost of obstruction did. Power rarely gives up control voluntarily. It adjusts only when resistance becomes more dangerous than concession.